Wah, wah. My daughter with polydactyly was born with a healthy birth. Polydactyly is literally a disease in which there are more fingers than normal. Contrary to my concerns, I was relieved to hear that polydactyly could be completely cured by surgery when they were 1 year old, and that it was not an intractable disease that caused such a fuss. However, my mother-in-law seemed to think that my husband, Finn, who was a doctor, and I, a graduate of the Faculty of Literature, were disproportionate. She had all kinds of horrible things to say. Finn's blood was mixed with your blood, and that's why such a child was born. It was late that night, and I woke up to the tremendous sound of a baby crying. Involuntarily turned on the light. It wasn't my daughter who cried. When I looked around, I saw my mother-in-law holding a pair of scissors with what looked like blood. Why is she here? Why? Mother-in-law, what's wrong? I cured a disabled person with polydactyly. Looking at my mother-in-law, who was full of confidence, I knew that she had cut my daughter's finger. What a ridiculous thing. Dreadful. I hurriedly looked at my daughter and saw that she was fast asleep. That's not my daughter. My mother-in-law didn't seem to understand what I was talking about. What? My mother-in-law seemed to be in a panic. Her face was pale. I was stunned by my mother-in-law's ridiculous behavior. My name is Scarlett and I am 26 years old. My husband, Finn, is also 26 years old. We were in the same college circle, and we got married last year. Finn graduated from the university's medical school and then worked as a doctor. I, on the other hand, graduated from the literature department of the same university, worked as a clerk at a publishing company for about 2 years, and now I am a full-time housewife. A new life started at my parents-in-law's house at Finn's request that he was worried about his mother, who lived alone. Since I was a full-time housewife, my mother-in-law did not show any pretense of doing housework. On the other hand, she found fault with me. Hey, this plate is dirty. My mother-in-law pointed to the back of the plate. I wonder if anyone cares about the dirt on the back side. Isn't that okay? I just leaked my true feelings. That's why you're not well educated. She scoffed at me. I graduated from the Faculty of Literature at a local national university. She didn't think I was a good match for Finn in medical school. Redo everything. She said something outrageous. When I showed some reluctance, she said, "Whose house do you think you live in? This is my house. Just start over. I'm going to kick you out." In her hand she held a broom. If I got hit, it's ridiculous, so I reluctantly started again. My mother-in-law's intractable habits were not limited to washing dishes. Hey, there's a lot of trash here. My mother-in-law was pointing to the front door. As people came and went from the entrance, it was natural that some garbage had fallen. Wipe it with this. She threw a wet rag at me. Ouch. I involuntarily raised my voice. Pathetic daughter-in-law. Wipe it off quickly. Hey, what are you doing? Oh, you should thank me for preparing a rag. She kept her eyes on me until I finished wiping it with a rag. It went without saying that my mother-in-law's extreme perfectionism was not limited to washing dishes and cleaning. I was forced to redo most of the chores I did during the day. It was such a small detail, but she was so strange that she forced me to do it all over again. Then you should do it yourself. I thought about it every day. In the midst of all this, I felt a change in my physical condition. I felt like my body has been hot lately. There were days when I had no appetite at all. I didn't think it was possible, but when I visited an obstetrician and gynecologist, I found out that I was pregnant. I wanted to have a child as soon as possible, but the time has finally come. Finn was genuinely pleased. I thought that my mother-in-law might be happy because she had her first grandchild, so I reported it to her. "Mother-in-law, I'm pregnant." "What? What's that?" "Pregnant. Even if the malady is very bad, don't skip your chores." I thought my mother-in-law's words were ones of encouragement, but I later realized that this was a big misunderstanding. Even after I found out I was pregnant, my mother-in-law gave me strict guidance on housework. Perhaps my sense of taste had gone wrong, and I often ended up with strange flavors. "Phew, what's this seasoning? You're not going to let me eat this, are you?" I tried my best to make lunch while I was sick from the bad malady, but my mother-in-law threw away the dishes I had made without a problem. "What? Hey!" It was so sudden that I didn't know what to do. "Why are you throwing it away?" "It's because I can't eat such a bad dish." "You're going to make lunch again." Still, I was at the limit of both energy and physical strength. "Excuse me. I'm not feeling well today. Please eat something appropriate for lunch." I said that and headed to the bedroom. I felt like I was about to collapse. For dinner that day, I decided to take delivery. "Mother-in-law, I ordered dinner delivery. Could you take it?" "Okay." I felt a little uncomfortable with my mother-in-law, who replied smoothly and pleasantly, but my vision quickly darkened. Maybe I was tired. When I woke up, it was 7 o'clock at night. Finn hadn't come home as usual. When I went to the living room, I saw a bowl of tuna poke on the table. "Thank you, mother-in-law." I spoke to my mother-in-law, who was lying on the couch. "It's okay." I was horrified by my mother-in-law, who was grinning somehow. Picking up the tuna poke, I tried to open the lid. There was evidence that someone had opened it. The tape that held the lid was peeled off. I wondered why. However, when I opened the lid, I was relieved to see a normal tuna poke. When I put a bite of tuna poke in my mouth, a ridiculous spiciness spread throughout my mouth. Too spicy. I hurriedly poured water into a glass and poured it into my mouth. Looking at the tuna poke, there was nothing spicy in it. "Oh, what's going on? Isn't it too spicy? Is it? Isn't your sense of taste wrong?" I was distrustful of my mother-in-law, who was grinning strangely. The malady was not so bad on that day. Even though I was pregnant and it was different from usual, I wondered if this was possible. I noticed an unfamiliar mustard on the table. "Is this mustard yours?" I decided to take the plunge and ask. I don't know. Isn't that Finn's? Seeing my mother-in-law's agitation, I was convinced. This was my mother-in-law's doing. I couldn't understand why my mother-in-law would do this. After that, I continued to be harassed by my mother-in-law. Most of the meals were delivered. Sometimes, when Finn could come home early, Finn would make it, but my mother-in-law would say, "I've been having a backache lately," and wouldn't show any pretense of doing housework. That's nothing but a lie. When Finn was doing chores, she was moving around and doing chores. In front of Finn, I thought she was playing the ideal mother who cared for me during pregnancy. Then, at the time of the long-awaited birth, my first child was born with a healthy birth, as a result of enduring the painful pain. It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's a cheerful daughter. My heart was filled with emotion. I looked in the direction where my husband was supposed to be. He should have held my hand a while ago, but now he didn't. After a while, the attending physician returned with my husband. They looked somewhat serious. "Your daughter has polydactyly." Polydactyly. She was born with one more finger. What? What? Incurable disease. I don't want that. Even though she was born healthy. Don't worry, it will be cured with surgery. I was relieved when my husband, who was a doctor, told me so. Please don't worry, the surgery will be done when your daughter turns 1 year old. More on that later. For the time being, your daughter is fine. The doctor's words brought me back to my composure. I'm glad. I returned to the hospital room from the delivery room. In the 4-person hospital room, there were 3 other women in addition to me, each with their baby. My baby, who was sleeping peacefully, was next to my bed. So cute. At the urging of the midwife, I lay down on the bed and looked at my baby. Then my husband came in. "Scarlett. You did it. It's my baby." I was a little embarrassed to shout my name out loud, but I was still very happy that he was so happy. After that, the 2 of them decided on her name. Her name we decided on was Aurora. It was like a combination of my name, Scarlett, and my husband's name, Finn. Once a mutually agreeable name had been decided, Finn received a call from the hospital where he worked. "I'll be back tomorrow morning. Take a good rest today." With that said, he left the hospital room. I thought being a doctor would be really hard. Still, I was proud of Finn, who found it rewarding to save patients. At the same time as my husband left, my mother-in-law entered the hospital room. Oh my gosh, she was born. It was the first time I've heard the phrase, "she was born." Yes, she was born safely. Finn's blood got dirty because it was mixed with yours. What do you say even when I have a child? Oh, this baby has 6 fingers. Why? It seems to be a disorder called polydactyly, but it seems that it can be cured by surgery when she is 1 year old, so don't worry. It's because of your blood that this kind of baby is born. While saying that, my mother-in-law left. She didn't seem to welcome her first grandchild. I wondered what I should do with my life while raising a child from now on. I was anxious about the future. My mother-in-law still didn't seem to help me with housework. Raising a child would be hard. Finn's work would be getting busier and busier. My mind was filled with anxiety. However, the number one concern was my mother-in-law. I just hoped that the harassment my mother-in-law was doing to me now would not extend to my daughter. Later that night, I was awakened by a baby crying. I turned on the lights. I thought it was my daughter, but it was the crying of the baby of Hazel next to me. To my surprise, there was a mother-in-law nearby. Why? My mother-in-law was looking at me. Mother-in-law, why? I cured a disabled person with polydactyly. My mother-in-law held a pair of scissors in her hand. There was a slight amount of blood on the scissors. I didn't think it was possible. I looked at my daughter, who was fast asleep. I wondered what my mother-in-law was saying. Mother-in-law, what do you mean? It seemed that my mother-in-law noticed something and she had a pale face. That was when Hazel woke up. Oh! Hazel was screaming and making a series of nurse calls. A nurse rushed to her in a hurry. Oh my God, my daughter's finger is bleeding. Something unexpected. Did my mother-in-law try to cut off Hazel's daughter's finger with scissors? She might have mistaken Hazel's daughter for my daughter. A doctor also rushed to the hospital room. It looks like someone cut it. The doctor looked at Hazel's daughter's fingers and said something like that. The doctor's gaze naturally shifted to my mother-in-law, who was stunned with a pair of blood-stained scissors. No, I'm not. I haven't done anything. It was as if she was telling herself. It was obvious to everyone that my mother-in-law tried to cut off her fingers with scissors. The security guards of the hospital rushed to the hospital room and detained her. Even so, my mother-in-law did something outrageous. Police said Hazel's daughter suffered minor injuries and my mother-in-law would be charged with wounding. The next morning, Finn came, as predicted. Apparently the police came to his home last night, and Finn knew what was going on. I decided to tell him about all the harassment I had been subjected to by my mother-in-law. I also told him that my mother-in-law tried to cut off another person's daughter's finger, mistaking it for my daughter. Finn was quite surprised because my mother-in-law had played the ideal mother in front of Finn. At the same time, he apologized to me. After that, Finn and I went to deliver clothes to the detention center where my mother-in-law was staying before the trial. My daughter was still undergoing tests and things at the hospital. My mother-in-law, who saw Finn's face, looked awkward. Finn. It's not true. I'm not doing anything. My mother-in-law said that she had not done anything, as if she had not yet reflected on it. Enough, exclaimed Finn. It may be the first time I've seen the normally mild-mannered Finn make such a loud voice since I met him. I know you played the good mother in front of me. You don't have to do it anymore. What? My mother-in-law was stunned. In this case, you tried to cut off the fingers of our baby, and where is the parent who wouldn't be angry when his child's finger was about to be cut? Besides, I know all about how badly you've harassed Scarlett. I can't allow that. My mother-in-law was silent. There was silence for a while, but it was my mother-in-law who broke it. I mean, I can't help it. There's no way that woman looks good on you, a doctor. I worked hard to save up for tuition, I was able to send you to medical school, you became a doctor, and your marriage partner was that woman. I can't think of it. It's disproportionate. I don't care about that. My husband refuted. Yes, I'm grateful that you've raised me, but it's over. I'm not going to have anything to do with you anymore. We're moving. What? My mother-in-law was speechless. No wonder. She had been told that her beloved son was going to cut ties with her. I'm not going to hire a lawyer here, so that's it. With that said, Finn and I left the visitation room. How am I supposed to live? From behind, I heard my mother-in-law's screams. I'm really sorry so far. I was refreshed that my husband said so much. It's okay, thank you. Regarding moving, there is actually talk of transferring to a branch of the hospital I'm currently attending, which is in Dallas, and Scarlett's parents' house is not far away. Dallas is where my parents' house is located. Of course. Are you sure about your mother? I didn't think that Finn, who was kind to everyone, would cut ties with his mother so easily. Do you want to keep in touch with the criminal who almost killed your daughter? Certainly. Hearing my husband's response, I became aware of myself as a mother. I'm a mother. Subsequently, my mother-in-law was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Even in the trial, my mother-in-law still didn't seem to be remorseful. It's that woman's fault. That woman and Finn are not proportionate. It seemed that she had been teasing irrelevant things for a long time, and the judge could not even give her a suspended sentence even though she was an elderly person who was a first-time offender. My mother-in-law, who spent 5 years in prison, was moved to a cell because she started screaming and fighting with other inmates, despite the presence of inmates around her. In addition, my mother-in-law's house was rented, not owned, and it seemed that my mother-in-law's assets ran out while she was in prison, so she was evicted from the house due to prolonged rent arrears. The landlord felt sorry for my mother-in-law and contacted us, but there was no way we would pay her rent. When my mother-in-law is released from prison, she will be homeless. How on earth will my mother-in-law live? On the other hand, we were able to buy a room in an apartment that was not far from my parents' house and close to the hospital where Finn worked, and we lived there. My parents often come to visit me at the apartment and take care of my daughter Aurora while I go shopping and do housework. By the time Aurora was 1 year old, the surgery was successful, and Aurora is living a comfortable life. From now on, I will live with my family of 3 and get along well with my parents.